So I got this thing all apart. There's the pile of pieces, and I got her stripped right down to the main box. And obviously I'm not going to take it apart. So the main sizes of this is the first thing that you'd want to make, is just this this carcass here. And it is, so for the top piece here, I've got mine made 15.5 inches wide. Now that could be made a little bit wider. This was, the size I made this was the absolute smallest I could possibly make it, and that turned out to be 15.5 inches. If your drill is anything other than what I've got here, then you may have to make it a little wee bit bigger. But, you know, it's hard for me to tell what kind of drill and what size it's going to be. So all I can do is give you the sizes of this one. And I'll give you the model number of this one too. There it is, right there. And these are a pretty good drill. They're made by DeWalt. They're just cheap, and just a regular 3/8 drill. And I think it's 6 amp is what they are. For some reason or other, my camera's not focusing in. So the main carcass here, like I said, is 15.5 inches wide, and then these side pieces, I've got it set on top. These side pieces are 8 inches high. So 8 inches high, and then I've got them made, I believe, 22. Yes, so 22 inches long. So you'll need two pieces, 8 by 22, and one 15.5 by 22, and then the little piece down here at the end. So I do have a hole hacked in the end here, and that's for that there rod to come out through that's going to actually pull to drill the hole. And it's just centered, and just take a good size notch out of here. Like, you know, you could cut a square one with a jigsaw. I just used a hole saw. It was just, like, folks, I made this machine in a day. So it was really just whacked together just as quick as I could. So I wasn't being fussy about the cuts, that's for sure. So then you're going to want to have, this is the spot in the top here that your drill is going to come up through. And I've got it back 3 inches. And then I've got 6 inches in from each side. So then whatever was left over, you'll have to figure that out. And then the hole itself is 10.5 inches long. So then, and that's where your insert's going to fit into there. So, so now just what to go on to next. I guess we might as well go over this insert next. This is a pretty complex little piece to build here, and I may actually change it out to something like this. Like, you can buy these little inserts here for the pocket hole jigs. And what I may do is switch it out to one of these, just because then it'll give me an aluminum insert here that, you know, my pocket hole would be drilling against, which I'm sure would be better than drilling against wood. However, the wooden one does seem to work pretty good, but I may, like I said, in a later video show you me switching it over to this kind of unit here. But for this video, we'll keep with this one. So the pieces here that I've got made, this piece here is 7/8 of an inch thick, and I've got it 5.5 inches wide and 4 3/4 inches long. And then that's just kind of that's my main supportive piece. Then I've got this other piece that the actual single hole guide. So if you guys have seen these around, these are like, you know, 10 or 12 bucks, and you get or 20 bucks, and you get a drill bit with it and everything. But the problem with this one is it's just plastic, and I've got this one just mutilated too. I should actually get a new one. I had a bit of a mishap when I was back drilling, because you want a spot for the sawdust to get away, but I'll cover that in a minute. So this piece here is 1 3/16 of an inch thick, and then the same thing, it's 5.5 wide and 4 3/4 inches long. And then what I did was I plowed a groove in this, and this is where this single hole guide is going to fit. I plowed it the same width as the single hole guide, and the whole length down through. And what I did is I left over 3/16 of an inch right here. This is the material. This is what's gonna, the single hole guide is gonna rest on, that last 3/16 of an inch. And then what I did is I grooved it on each side here so that it would fit inside. I just got to take this screw out. I use this as a little locking screw. I'm just going to take it out if I can. Yes, to lock that single hole guide in. Then this will sit inside like this. It'll groove up in there, and then there's just a few screws to hold it in. So here's the mishap that I made. When I was back drilling this is going to go on top of this. When I was back drilling this, my drill bit really got a holt, and I was using actually a step drill bit. It got a holt, and they really tend to wind in. And what it did was it blew right out through the front side here. So what I had to do was I just drilled or just filled this cavity full of wood and glue, and then I just re-drilled it. So that's why it's like a wood glue look there. But you know, it's kind of a good thing anyway, because if any of you guys own a pocket hole drill bit, you know that sometimes the tip will break off the bit, and it'll get in that pocket and just grind away. And it, you know, my other one, even though it's made out of aluminum too, it actually gouged it up pretty bad. So it's good to know that if we get into that predicament, then what we could do is I blocked it actually with a 3/8 bolt, and I filled it right full of wood glue and kind of wood mixed into it. And then I just re-drilled it again, and it made it, you know, it's not as pretty as it would be, but it's still just like new now. So, but that's the reason why I'm thinking about changing over to this aluminum insert as well. The wood's not quite as hard, but it seems to be working good. Like if you guys have seen, I've used this, not a whole big bunch, but a fair bit, and it's drilling a nice pocket hole as long as I got a sharp drill. So, so then what I'm going to do, or what you would want to do, is get this in the same shape. So then you're going to get this piece would fit in there. And this is probably the hardest part of this build right here, is building this little insert. So I've got that set right even with the top of this block, as you can see. And then what I had to make is, this was a hard little block to make as well. And I've got it chewed up quite a little bit because I've drilled that relief hole that where my shavings are going to come out. And I did have this set up. I thought I was going to run dust collection on it. So that's why the bottom hole was there. If you guys have been following my videos, then you'll know that that was to allow air in. And then this is where the suction would have happened. But I'm fine. I don't really want to run dust collection on it because this is a portable unit. So I've been just running it without dust collection, and it's working fine. But I had to drill afterward quite a big hole, and that's why I ran into trouble with this side. So then make this little piece that just fits in there, and you want this just above when you do this, just barely above, so that you can feel that there's a little bit, it's raised a little bit. And then you see when you put this top piece on, it's going to act like a compression fitting, and it's going to squeeze that little single hole guide in there, and then it's not going to be able to move. So that's what I'll do right now. I'm not going to bother. It's too hard to run the camera with one hand. So then, you know, pre-drill and clamp this nice and tight. And then what I did to hold that single hole guide in there, I actually pre-drilled a hole so that the screw was coming out just the back side of this single hole guide. There's a little plastic kind of port there, and you can see that the screw ended up going into that, and that just secures it a little tighter in place there. So like I said, this is the hardest part of this build. If you're going to build one of these, this is going to be the hardest part of this, is to get this little mechanism made here. And I'll shut the camera off just for a second and get it back together and show you a little more of it. There, now I've got it back together. And the reason why this turned into such a mutilation job, like I said, I was in a hurry. So this thing was already in the machine, and the machine was already set up and running. I just flipped the machine over, and I just did this with an electric drill. If I had this made and took it over to my drill press, I could have had a nice neat hole, and I wouldn't have blown out from the front. That's what I do, is after you have this set up, then these jigs originally have a small little port, and what you're going to want to do is drill a nice big hole in behind that port where the dust collection, for the dust to come out and the shavings to come out. And you're going to want to drill a nice big hole so that there's somewheres for the shavings that this is going to make, somewheres for them to get out. So then once you've got that little unit together, then this will just get screwed into place under here like this. Like that. So I'll get that done, and then I'll turn the camera back on. Alright, so there, we got this thing back in place now. So the other thing that I want to mention too is once this thing is screwed in place, then I had to, in order for my drill to clear, I had to grind away at a little portion here, as you can see, so that when the drill slid down in there, because of the angle it was on, it was kind of, the top of the drill was chafing, and you'll have to just try that. When you get this thing in this kind of shape, And the other thing too that I forgot to mention is once you get this in this kind of shape there where it's clamped into place, obviously you're not going to have the pocket hole there. Then what you'd want to do is clamp a piece of material to the top of this, and then you could run your drill up through with a drill bit in it, and then you'll end up with the pocket hole like this. And then you could drill your relief hole here for your sawdust to come out. And like I said, I recommend doing that in a drill press. And then the other thing that I did is I had some of this plexiglass around, but you don't necessarily need plexiglass. You could just use a piece of 1/4-inch plywood. So then what I did was, after that was done, then I actually ran my router around here and created this little lip around here, and I actually just ran it right over top of the jig too, and it did take a little wee bit of the plastic, but not a lot. And then this will fit in here and just make it so that no material, so then little short pieces wouldn't fall down in there. So that covers that portion hopefully enough that you guys understand it. So now the drill.